I first met Reverend Walker when we started attending the Family Worship Center in Denton, Texas. And I was drawn to him by his nature. He had a trustworthy appearance about him that just made me believe in him. And at the time, he was very sick. He walked very gingerly. He had to carry oxygen with him at all times. I was afraid for him. I helped him a number of times when he was walking down the center aisle. At our church, we had prayer during the service. People can come up during the praise and worship service, and the preacher will come down and pray for you. And often Bob would go down because he was so ill, and when he would go down, I would be afraid for him, so I would help him because I didn't want him to fall. But Bob knew that there was more to his life than what was going on at that time, and he told his doctors that God was going to heal him, and he was going to be back preaching again. And his steadfast belief in God brought healing to his life, absolutely. And I've seen it happen. When he first came back to the pulpit, I was so worried for him because I seen his illness take over his whole body and his whole nature. And I'm telling you that his doctor was worried, and his cardiologist was there during his first preaching. And they had oxygen bottles on the first pew in case he kind of run out of oxygen and needed something. And when he started preaching, I just thought, how is this going to work out for him? But let me tell you, the anointing of God took over, and Bob started preaching, and man, you couldn't tell that there was anything wrong with him at all. He just preached a sermon that nobody in that church is going to forget. And one of the things that I have regrets about is that I didn't bring my camera and record his first sermon, because it was terrific. Now, later, when he was going to preach his second sermon, it was on a Wednesday night. And I really had no plans to bring my camera and record him. But as I started to get ready for church, something in my mind said, bring your camera and record Bob. And I thought, well, I haven't charged the batteries in it for a long time, and it wouldn't last. And something in my mind said, no, there's batteries in there, just go in and get some of the alkaline batteries, they're fresh, they'll last. And I said, and I was fighting this, and I said to myself, well, I'm just going to bother Bob, and he won't be able to preach well, and he won't want me to. And the same thing in my mind said again, just get the camera and bring it with you. So I obeyed. Later, what I found out was God's calling for me to help Bob. But at the time, I didn't know that. So I went to church, and I had my camera in my pocket. It's a small handheld. And I walked up to Bob, and I said, Bob, I could record you, but I'm not wanting to bother you. And he looked right straight in my eye, and he said, no, that won't bother me a bit. He said, I've been recorded before. He said, just go ahead and record me. So I felt better because I was just nervous about doing it. But I just sat down, and when they called him up, I started my camera, and I recorded his sermon. And wow, it was another powerful sermon. The man is called to preach, and God is in him. There's no doubt about that. When you hear him preach, you know that. And after that, when I made a DVD out of it and gave it to Bob, he told me, he said, you know, I've been praying for help in this area for a long time. And he said, I had no idea where the help had come from. And now I believe the help is coming from you. Which of course made me feel very good. So the important thing I guess I have to say beyond introducing Reverend Bob Walker to you in a moment is that when God calls you to do something, don't squish it away, obey, because it's something that you need to do, and God will bless you and reward you for it. And right now, I'd like to introduce Reverend Bob Walker.